Hello, my name is Bernard Witt. I am the founder of 2x4 and the CEO. And I want to show you today one of our products. It's called SurveyTester. SurveyTester is the cloud solution for survey testing. There is one platform. SurveyTester is one platform for a whole range of teams, of survey authors, of testers, of project managers. It's a collaboration environment and it brings everything together what is about survey quality and survey control and about testing surveys before they go live. SurveyTester is cost effective, it's time saving, it's a workflow process that will also optimize your day-to-day work when you're doing survey testing. It creates a clear communication channel for test runs. And I will start with this situation in a minute. So whenever a tester is finding an issue in a survey, then it has a clear communication channel that it can use, so he can use with SurveyTester. At the same time, the programmers or the coders of a survey can look to the problem immediately and check details about it. Now, there are some key features of SurveyTester. One definite key feature is the multi-device screenshot environment that we are supporting. There are up to 20 different screenshot engines running in the background. And these are not simulations. These are really physical devices like iPhones or iPads or Android phones. And these devices are only doing screenshots from screens or from surveys that the testers are testing. Then we have a great feature like or called jump to page. Jump to page is the possibility to start a new survey or new test run, as we call it. And this test run should not start with question 1 or question 2. You can start from question 50, for example, straight away. And the way how we do this is really clever because we know all the questions and all the answers in the database that we have from our survey testing experience, and that makes it possible to simulate or to make a very quick start for a new test run. And then at the end of the day, an audit reporting is important because we collect a lot of data with SurveyTester. We can definitely say that specific errors are always repeating or occurring more than other errors occurring. And there's also the possibility to create a report at the end of the day that shows you for a specific project all the screenshots, for example, all the pages, all the questions, and what the testing history was. There is no installation needed if you're running SurveyTester, so everything is cloud-based, and so you don't need to upload any files to SurveyTester, or you don't need to install a program. Everything you need is log into SurveyTester, and you need a URL to a survey, to a web-based survey that you usually use for your testing anyway. So usually this URL is available and you can run it. Now, SurveyTester works like this. On the left-hand side, we have a variety of different connectors to survey engines like Confirmit or SPSS or Nebo or Voxco or others. And then SurveyTester is sitting in the middle between the tester, which we have on the right side, and the survey engines that are on the left side. So while we are testing, every communication between the tester and the servers are running through SurveyTester, and therefore we can analyze the traffic, we can analyze what's going on, and then we can support the test process. As already said, screenshots on different devices and browsers. Yeah, there are screenshots with mobile phones, with tablets, with larger desktop environments, Safari, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Edge, and so on. So if you do your test with only one environment like Chrome, we are still making a lot of screenshots in the background, and we support your process and your analysis with showing you the screenshots and how they look like. So there is a compatibility between a variety of different formats. If this list does not include the format you are using, then, well, you should talk to us and we make it happen that you can use your environment as well. Great. So before I start with the management environment, I want to go to an email that we have here, and this email is basically similar to an email you could send out to testers. There are anonymous testers, or let's say testers that do not need a login to SurveyTester, and there are then named testers or named users available as well. Now this is an email that we sent to Mike Smith, and Mike Smith is invited to test a project called Winter Wonderland, and the testing language is English. So Mike is able to do that just with clicking on that following link. Yeah, let's do that. So once Mike clicks on that link, he sees, okay, there is a survey now, and this is the first page of that survey. Now, the survey is everything what is in the top of that area, and SurveyTester adds some elements to the screen. The first element is on the left side, so there is something called our SurveyTester node. Then we have our buttons at the bottom. This is erase all or auto answer or auto next. And then we see on the bottom right our page name. Now the page name is sometimes very important because this allows survey testers, that's the people who are using SurveyTester, so it allows the testers to identify exactly on what page they are. And sometimes they need to know that so that they can make their decisions what to answer. Great, so this is the first page of the survey. I think it looks great, nothing to change here. So I click on start and I want to start my survey. Now, this is the first question now of that survey, and obviously also everything is great. Now, possibly there is a typo. I think totally should be written with one L. So I can report that problem now. Without SurveyTester, what happens is basically people writing emails, creating screenshots, and writing in their own words what the problem is. Now, SurveyTester allows pretty much the same, but in a more structured way. So I have my SurveyTester node at the bottom here. Oh, sorry about that. So at the bottom, and there are 4 features basically I could use. The one that I want to use now is the issues feature. So I click on issues here. I see, first of all, there are no reported issues on that page. That's an important information for a tester, because if something is already reported, then the tester does not need to report it again. And this saves a lot of time and money. So I can click on add issue here. And add issue gives me, first of all, information about, again, what page we are, what the creation date is, and the time is also stored in the background. Who I am, I'm Mike Smith, and this issue was found by me. And then I have 2 different issue type or 2 different classification fields. The first one is called issue type, and the next one is called status. After that, I'm seeing a description, and in the description, I can write what the problem is, and I can write in, I think totally should be checked. Now, it looks like totally is really written with 2L. But anyway, should be checked. We know the client wants a special format of this word underlined, for example. So I can basically type in whatever message I wanna store with that issue. Now, coming back again to the issue type and the status, this is something what is not really fixed in SurveyTester. So there is a kind of different options that I can check. So this would be something like spelling error or routing error or whatever there is. And the status is also something what I can check here. However, this information is created by our backend users. So the backend user can define, okay, this is what I want to offer the tester, an issue type and a status. Possibly they want to offer different things or not the status or only 1 or 10. So this is totally flexible, and it's possible to create these fields and combine them into a set, and then every project can have its own set. So basically this is what I typed in. Now to make sure that the coder at the end of the day or in the back end knows what I mean, I can use my pencils here, and I can make a drawing here and define what I want. For some reason that drawing is not working, so I will come back to that at a later point. Good, so I'm saving my issue now, and this shows now this issue is saved. It's in the database. It's already available now, and at the same time I'm doing this, an email, for example, can be sent out to the coder who is working on that project. Great. So I close this. I go to the next question. Now this is exactly what happens without SurveyTester. So I tried to click on next and I didn't give an answer, but this is a mandatory question. So the server said, hey, missing answer, and there is something what I need to change here. Now coming back to these buttons at the bottom here, there's something called auto answer. Now imagine there are many surveys with a lot of grids, and when I'm using grids and I have all the mandatory, I just have to click a lot of questions and answers just to bypass these questions. And this is really tedious and is time consuming. So we are using too much time of our programmers or our testers basically. So what I have here is an auto answer button. This just selects a random answer out of the possible answers inside my screen. So it works with individual questions like that one. It also works with grid questions and numeric questions and text questions. So I always can use auto answer, and this is a very fast way to move forward. Now, auto next is basically similar to auto answer, but it also submits the page. So if I have, let's say, 10 questions on the page, I can click on auto next, it does the auto answer, and then it brings me to the next question. So this is something what really helps in my day-to-day testing environment and which speeds up the testing process. Now, erase all is something also very useful. It just deletes all the answers on my current screen. So I have the option to start over again and see if this and that is working in the right way. Great. Now, we are now on the page where you see on that little element on the bottom left, the number 1. And this means that there is already an issue reported to that page. Let's look at that issue. I click on that one and I see, okay, the whole page is too large. On a regular laptop, you cannot see the answer option. Without scrolling, the whole product box should be a bit smaller. Okay, let's see what that is. Oh yes, I need to scroll down to see my answers. So these are the stars, my rating, and I could not see it initially. So initially I didn't really realize what to do with that page. So this is really true, and well, the bug is already reported or the issue is already reported, so I can move on and just do my testing. Okay, so auto answer also works, by the way, with these stars, for example. So I did answer what I wanted to have. I can click next, and then I see a couple of more screens that I want to answer just to make sure that I can finish that page. So yeah, do the auto answer or auto next, whatever I want. Now this is a question that is, well, something new to me. 500 euro, how much do I spend for clothing every month? I don't spend 500 euro, to be honest. I spend a little bit more, so I can make sure that I have the right thing here before I move to my next question. And then open text. Let's watch how that looks here. So auto answer just add some, well, random text here that is used here. So I can go next here and finish my survey. So thank you for your support and so on. So it looks like this is the end of the survey. And the page is called end of interview. So I can basically move out here. Good. So what we just have seen is really just the tester, the environment that a tester sees while they're testing. And what happens in the background is a lot more indeed, because while we were testing, SurveyTester was recording all the individual information in the database. So let's look what we can do here. So I just click on my initial browser again and try to sign in. Now, SurveyTester is designed for handling small companies and also multinational, global acting market research companies with their specific needs. Now, a small company has possibly just a couple of different persons to use, and there's no big overhead. But multinational market research companies have different, let's say, outsourced centers in the world, like in India or in Mexico or in Bulgaria. And these companies are working, or these outsourced centers are working for individual companies inside different countries like Germany, France, UK, USA, and so on. So what we have made is we create a system where everybody can basically log in with an email address and password, and then they see exactly these projects across multiple environments or multiple companies that they should see. So let me log in. I'm using our demo account here, and then I have my password, and I'm signing in, and then I see basically, first of all, yeah, the products or the projects that we are working with. Now, this screen or this first screen shows me my favorite project at the top. So Winter Wonderland is one of it. I can also create new projects from here if I have the right to do so. Now, I'm a system administrator, so I can do pretty much what I want. And then I have a schedule at the bottom where I can see if there's anything going on, like a specific project needs to be ready, for example, or some team has a bank holiday or whatever there is that I need to share with my team. And this is really project tester related. Now, on the top left, there is my hamburger menu for my project. And my project list is already pretty large. I see, for example, folders like demos as a folder, okay, or perfect skill or ABC testers, OpenMR. These are folders. This might be customers, for example, that we want to handle. And then I have my different projects. Now, Winter Wonderland is my favorite project, or one of my favorite projects at the moment. So there's a small star or an asterisk already highlighted. If I want to do the same with Demo Hotel, for example, I can just click on that, and then it's added as well to the lists to the favorite project at the bottom, sorry, at the top, and then I can work with it at the same time. Great, so this one is my project management. So I can create my new projects here. I have favorite project, recent projects, all the projects with folder structure, and also closed projects that I don't want to use anymore. Then I have at the top right, I have my notification area. So if other people working on the same projects are doing some changes with the project, like working on issues, changing statuses, or creating new projects, I would see that bell ringing, and then I could also click on it. And well, at the moment, nothing is there, so I don't really need to do that. But I will see all the news. Now, this administrative area to the right, or to the next, is giving me possibilities that I will show you a little bit later. But here is the place where I can manage my projects, my teams, my users, the user rights, and so on. So I can manage the whole system from here. And here to the right where it says BW, now these are my initials. So this is where I can set my account. For example, I can change my first name, my last name, the language or the time zone I'm working, my email, or I can change my password to do so. I can also set my notification settings here. So notify via email, I can define that I want to have every notification or hourly or once a day notifications. So you can imagine if I am working on projects, it's important for me that I have most updated information, and I do not really want to log into SurveyTester all the time. So I would say I want to get an hourly notification on my mobile phone, on my email, and then SurveyTester is sending this actively to me every hour, and I can see exactly what's going on in the background. There's also things like auto-subscribe to new projects that are created, for example, where I have access to, or I can auto-subscribe to new issues that are also done. Good. So let me close this, and I'm going now to my Winter Wonderland project. What we see at the top now, there are a couple of different pages. Project details is the page where I can make all the settings and definitions for my project. Project issues is the page, and it shows in letter 2 or number 2 at the end, where I see what issues are detected or found from my testers about this project. Now 2 means there are 2 open issues that are not yet resolved. Pages and routing will show me exactly how many pages we have found, what is the routing of my project, and I can see all the if conditions and logic there that we have. Test run is an overview of all the tests what the team has done so far. Now the team, this can be internal testers or there can be external testers, also clients or customers could be in that group of testers. And then I can also test my survey from here, and from here I could make specific settings like or selections like what language do I want to test, or do I want to jump to a specific page. The right area is most the same, however there is a note area available as well, where I can see some specific notes that are related to that project. Great. So inside the project details, I have my project details area here. So there's a couple of different things like what are the classification fields, for example. You remember that we said we want to have the type, the issue type, and also the status, for example. Now this is collected into the simple classification field. And again, our backend users or our administrators or basically our clients users are setting this up on their own. There's nothing what 2x4 is really restricting or giving you. There's a demo or default that can be used, but you have this in your own hands. Then we have different project types and dimensions or Puzzle or IBM SPSS data collection, or now Unicom IBM SPSS data collection is something what is definitely supported, like also like Confirm It. But there are a couple of others as well, like Kinesis or Nebu. Voxco is just the next one in the list that we will support. And so, independent of what your survey system is, we are really keen to grow this list of supported platforms. And whatever platform you're using, your testing environment and your testing process is really staying the same. Now, there are a couple of other things what you can check, like do we offer auto answer or while you're testing or not? Do we want to set other things like the rulers? Stuff like that is there. But the most important thing is really this one. This is what we need for our testing. And you see, this is just a URL. And this is the URL usually a tester would get anyway. So even if you would only like to use SurveyTester for 1 or 2 projects, and you have usually your URL, you can use that URL and you enter it here, and then it's used. Great. Then we have at the next box we have test links. Now these are anonymous testers basically, or testers that do not need a login. So these testers cannot log into this environment, to this backend. They just can use that URL, and they can just create tests or doing tests with that URL. If I add a new tester, I give that tester a name. That could be Tom Page, for example. Tom has an email address. Now, for the reason of not having an email address for Tom, I'm using my email address, so this bwit@2by4.de. Then, Tom has a first name because Tom is a person who does not need to log in, but still I want to know who that is, and this is Tom Page, for example. Then we can add some parameters to that URL when Tom is making that test. This could be something like i.user5 equals yes. Now, this depends really really on the survey that you're using in the survey system. But in that case, the survey system would possibly pick up that information, what i.user5 is. And if it's yes, it's doing a long survey. If it's no, it's doing a short survey. So there are a couple of different things you could do here. Now, there might be an expiration date, and we would say, well, this link should only work until the 18th of September this year. And I need to press the OK button. So I have OK here until a specific time. Let's say this is 9 p.m. Now I can define if Tom can jump pages. Now this is not needed for Tom, so I don't do that. And then we have also the possibility to send an email to Tom. And then a great thing as well, send email on issue updates. So whenever somebody internal in the team updates that issue that was reported from Tom, then we will send an email to Tom about that as well. So if Tom does not log into the system, Tom cannot see the issues, so all the backend is not available for Tom. But still, we found it important for some people that if they report a problem, that they should also get a notification when their problem was resolved, for example, or denied or whatever. So I'm doing this, and Tom now received an email, and this email is exactly the same one that we have seen initially in the demo. If I want, I also can resend that email, and then, well, Tom would get the same email again. Good. Then we have the box screenshots. Now, this is one of the key features of SurveyTester. SurveyTester creates screenshots in the background automatically. So while we were testing our survey, SurveyTester created screenshots for iPhone, for Android phone, for iPad, for mobile, horizontal phones, and so on and so on. So all these screenshot engines are running in the background and only doing screenshots. Now, if you think you only want to have screenshots for a specific range, like Chrome, for example, like IE11, and like iPad and iPhone, then you can select these here. So here's the place where you select what screenshot engines you want to run. Selecting the right engines is important because it really helps the whole system to be performant and not make a screenshot that nobody's needing anymore. Great. Now, the screenshots, we'll watch them a little bit later. Then we have a document area. For testers, it's very important that they can really work with, let's say, a PDF document that shows them what the survey should look like. In that PDF document, they will see skip rules or information about logic and stuff like that. This is something what they don't usually see on the screen when they are doing the tests. So here I can upload my documents, and this can be just regular documents like PDF or Word docs or Excel or whatever you want to do. Then we have project languages. You can use this, and you can add, for example, other languages to your project. Like I'm looking for French, and I want to do French for Canada, for example. Now, the control over that is that the survey needs to pick up an information from the URL, and this can be something like i.user9 equals FRC for Canada. Now, this is working for the Unicom IBM SPSS data collection dimensions SPSS system, for example. So I would do it like this if I want to use the dimensions platform. And then inside that survey, we would pick up that information and say, okay, if it's FRC, then we are switching to French for Canada. And if it's FRE, for example, there's French for France and so on, or FRA, sorry. So this is something what needs to work together with the survey system. And for many survey systems, there is no really standard how we can control the languages from outside or through the URL. It's more open, so we need to find the right way how to do that. But this is something what survey authors are doing every day, basically, because they need to control that anyway. Then we have project tasks. Now this again is something what we can use. I could say French must be worked on. And this is something what we want to do between, let's say, the 8th of September and the 15th of September. Okay, there's no repetition here. And I don't want to repeat that non-repetition, so that's fine. I can click on that and that's it. Good. Then we have user management. Now, user management and role management are really tied together because I can assign users to that project or I can assign roles to that project. Now, every user is part of one or multiple roles. So I could have a role called, for example, France or Coca-Cola or project managers. Now, a role like project manager would have functional user rights. That means for a project manager, I would say these people can create projects and they can select their screenshot devices and everything what is needed for this role. But then I would also have other roles like Coca-Cola. And I would say, okay, Coca-Cola, there's no function, but it's just bringing people together into that role. And then when I'm adding my role management or my role Coca-Cola to that project, then Coca-Cola people would be able to see that project. And through their role, project manager role, the system would know what functions they can do. For example, can they upload documents or view documents? Can they add project tasks or not, and so on. So this is very powerful without repeating the functions every day. Great. So this is basically most of it what we have from the project part. Now this is two things here what we can do. First of all, I can create a backup. I see I have a couple of different limits for the backups. I can just do the backups again. And the backup of Window Wonderland is approximately 27 megabyte at the moment. So I could say, yeah, create a backup. And then I would see that this is also moving on. It's 5%, 18% now done. So I can still see that. If I am done that, or if this is finished, then I could download the backup to my computer and upload it later to that server if I want. But this is basically really the way that allows me to make or store everything what is related to that project on my computer. And then I can subscribe this project. So if I'm doing this, then I would see all the issues, for example, that will arise, and I can get them by email or I can see them in that bell if I want. Now the reason why I don't see anything here at the moment is because I only see other people's reported issues here. I don't see my issues. And that's pretty important because I don't really want to see all the list. If I want to see all the list, I go to the next tab. But if I look to the bell, I see across all projects where I have access to all the things what are happening to me. So this is more like inter-project or cross-project related. Great. So let's check what the backup is doing. So yeah, it's done. So the backup is already done. So it was just today. And I can download it from here if I want, or I can ask the administrator to download it. So there are more possibilities available. Good. Now let's look to the project issues, because this is indeed a very important thing. First of all, it's a list, and we see, okay, Mike Smith reported 2 projects. Now there's one project description here, that's the info here, then what page was it, what's the creation date, what was it, when was the last change, for example, that's also important, what project language was related to it, and they have closed, yes or not. Now if I'm clicking that closed button, you see there's now only one open issue. So if I check it again, there is again 2 issues. Then we have issue types, priority status. Now they were not reported. But if I want, then I can, double click on that, and then I see more details to it. First of all, I see my classification field sets. I see, okay, this is valid range not set, for example. Or this is, now somebody entered some priority here in Spanish. So I think this should be medium, medio. And then I have open. When you remember right, while we were reporting an issue, we did only see 2 fields and not 3 fields. Now the reason is because the administrator of that classification field said that the priority is nothing what an external tester should see. So you have it in your hands if you want to allow external testers to see all the fields classifications or only some of them, or you can create some that are only seen by them. Um, and the reason for that is priority, for example, is really important internally, but indeed an external client that might be, yeah, the end client, the Coca-Colas in the world. Uh, for that person, everything is really important. So you would have only very important things and issues that needs to be fixed immediately. And sometimes in an internal team you have a different view, and then you can watch this. Now you see the description again. Okay, then you see comments. Now there's no comment, but I can make a comment like this is very important, for example. I'm saving my comment now. And then you see the comment was here. I can create other comments, or other people can create their comments. So this is a list, and there are a couple of different things what moving on. Then I see also what was the screen, for example, and I see, okay, the screen was cut off at that point. And after that, I don't see more, but I have show all screenshots. And this is really nice, because if I go to that one, show all screenshot, then this screen is moving a little bit wider, and I have on the top here select devices. Now all the devices that were creating screenshots are listed here. So let's watch how it looks on an iPad, for example. Okay, now on iPad, this looks like that. On some of the devices, I can also scroll. So for example, here, you see I can scroll down and I see, okay, how that looks like. So I can check if this is really what I want to see on an iPad. My screen is very small. Usually a web or a survey developer has a larger screen, and on that larger screen, this iPad really looks similar in size like a real iPad. So let's check another device like an iPhone. And this is just an iPhone like that. And you see this is compared to the iPad, this is larger. But again, if I have a large enough screen, then my iPhone here, this is an iPhone 5, will have similar the size like a real iPhone 5. Okay, and here we see, okay, on iPhone this looks pretty good because there's plenty space here. But on another hand, it looks like this buttons back next are also just here, well, in the middle and not at the bottom. It really depends how I want to have, how it should look like. So let's check another device, and this could be, for example, an Android phone, and we see the Android phone at the bottom. Now, the Android phone screenshot is not yet there, and this is the reason why I see a blank space at the moment. The reason why this happens is because screenshots take their time to produce. So it depends a lot of how many screenshots are done or worked on at the moment. And so there are a couple of different things what we try or what we're doing that this is generated in a reasonable time. But this can happen. So if you come back at the layer point, we would be able to see that Android screenshot. Great. So this is basically my device. If I want to see this more pixel detailed, I can click on that, and then it's a little bit larger. So I see now basically how that would look like. But this is the whole iPhone, iPad, and it looks vertical now, although it was horizontal. But the reason is because the iPad frame is not there anymore, and I just see the whole picture like I would see here when I'm scrolling. Okay, now these screenshot devices again are real devices. They are in our data center, in our environment. These devices are there, and we can really physically see them, how they are making screenshots. and what's going on in the background. So this is no simulation. This is real iOS devices or Android devices or other systems that we are working or supporting. Great. So let's move on a little bit. And now something changed here. There's now a small bubble here, one, and this has one comment now. So even in that overview, I can see how many comments I have. I also can see my issue change history. So I can see for that issue that is marked here, there were some changes. It was changed from one translation error to valid range not enforced, or from other things what we have had here. So this one is available here, and all these tables what you see on all the pages have their own functionality as well. So first of all, I can, for example, filter. I could say I want to have everything what is related to Q1, and then only Q1 issues would pop up. And then I have also the possibility to select the columns that I want to see. For many people, it's not very important when the issue was created, just when it was changed last time. So I can get rid of this one, for example. Or if it's closed or what language it is, I can do that. We also can change the order. For example, I can say, yeah, page go back a little bit. So I don't want to see that here. So it really depends on you what you want to do here and how you want to do that. Now the other thing is that we have the possibility to export data or that table to, well, for example, to my desktop. So this is an Excel file, for example, that will be exported. And when I'm doing this, it will be downloaded. Now I'm working at the moment on a Mac, but obviously Excel works the same on on regular PCs. And what you see here is basically the ID, created by, info, everything what we had so far, but also the whole change history. So this issue had a change history. It's also a comment list of comments here. So it can be a little bit large if there's really a lot going on, but you can export that, and that makes it really useful if you want to store that information at other points. Great. So these are basically my issues. What I also can do is I can add issues without testing. Sometimes our clients know already that there will be an issue or something what they want to check with their client on a page before the survey is even ready. So I could say I want to add something, and I want to add this to page 6, for example. And I can say, yeah, check this out, whatever I want to do. And then I have just a comment, priority auto again status is open. And then I have also my language that I want to choose. You remember we have English and French for Canada. And I don't add this information because they're really not important at all. But then I can add this. And then I have a third issue. Okay. Great. This is something what I can do here as well. Now, let's come to the next one, pages and routing. When most people look into this tab initially, they think, oh, interesting or not interesting. But in fact, this is very interesting to people who know what's going on. First of all, we see all the pages that we found on the survey while we are testing. You remember, we don't have any MDD files or Excel files or XLM files, XML files, and so on. So we know nothing from the survey. Your programmer didn't upload any survey files to SurveyTester. Everything what we have is, again, this URL. So when we're creating a new survey, we know nothing about that survey. But everything what you see here is what we learned while we were exploring the tests or doing the tests. So when somebody starts the survey, we see, okay, there's interest stored. When somebody clicks on next, we see there's question 1 and so on. We also have the information that these pages were detected. So I could add a page, I could add question 99 if I want, and then I can create an issue for that page, but this would not be detected. Now, once somebody's testing this, then it will be detected and this flag is turning around. Now, I see also how many times this page was in a test related. So I see, for example, intro was tested 3 times. Now I clicked on it and then the iPhone screenshot was here, which is also nice. But then I see also Q1 was tested 5 times. Now, how can this happen that the first question was only 3 times and Q1 was 5 times? Now the reason is, if I'm going next, for example, and like here I have a missing answer, it counts twice. So it shows me the information how many times this page was on screen basically. Or if I go next and then if I go back, I see the screen again. So this is encountered or retested a couple of more times. Okay, so I see then also issue comments. So there's no comment, but there's comment here. And I have some information here as well. Then I have information about, if I'm scrolling down, about the answers of that thing. Now, patent routing. This is not really what we have. What we have is a label history. So, for example, if somebody was changing that label, your purchase contained totally 4 different products, for example. And the programmer changed that. And then there's obviously a kind of a history. And then I would have multiple labels. Now, at the moment, I have only 1 label because nothing changed. The great thing here is also if you're doing a larger test and you have, for example, Q2_1 tested in German and in English and in French, then, well, I can imagine that most of you are not so fluent in German language, or let's say not in Chinese language, but then you would have possibly screenshots or pages with a lot of Chinese characters. Now, if we have our test done, we could say, yeah, let me watch this in English instead of Chinese. So then you would see, okay, this, what does it mean in English? And this is not a translation, what we are doing. This is the translation that is part of your project because we know, okay, Q2_1, we have the question text in English and in Chinese and in German and in French. And so we are collecting all this data and we are showing this different information at the right point to you. And then you could, this could really help you identifying what is going on. Great. So this doesn't really look more interesting. Now, what is interesting is that routing diagram, because here I see how the pages are connected together. Now I have here also numbers in between. So I see interest door 2 answered this. Q1, and this is now people, not how many people are really moving on, but this is how many times we show that pages. These are really interviews. So 2 people went on here to here, and from here we only have 1 person moving on. So that means that the person here stopped at Q2_1. We see also the answers that were given and how often they have been given. Now some of the answers like 3 and 7, this is more like a numeric answer. Now this is more like a categorical answer. And I didn't have really much testing here, so this is not really fancy. But what we see with other projects is that there will be some kind of routing. So sometimes people going from Q2_1 to this one, to this question, and other people are going straight to this question because they don't see all the fancy car questions, for example, or shoe questions. And then there is heavy routing available. So this shows you your complexity. You see exactly how people were tested. And these are not individual people. This is really the sum of all the people. So you see really what's going on. Now, coming back again to our table. Very important and very interesting is also that if, for example, a survey coder or project manager or even a tester knows there is questions 7, 8, 9, and 10 should be available, but they are not in that list. Now, this means that nobody has seen these questions. So you see here basically just what's found, but you could interpret it in a way that you see what you're missing. Because if you know that question 7, 8, 9 should be there, somebody should have tested that, and you don't see them here, that means Nobody has tested these pages. Now, this could happen because of a wrong logic in your skip rules, for example. So you could, for example, say if gender equals male and gender equals female instead of or, then you have a programming logic error produced, and then the system or your survey engine just would do it. And usually there's no really good way to find out other than showing you what we found, and you need to know what you're missing basically. So this is more powerful as most people really initially think of. Okay, good. Now, then we have our test runs, and test runs is something really important as well because it shows, okay, two people or two test runs were there. Mike Smith did two test runs at a specific time and date. We see also how long these test runs were taking. Now we have in a variety of different countries in the world, like Germany, for example, if Mike Smith is an internal employee, then it's, let's say, critical from a legal point of view if I should see how long Mike Smith needed for this test run. For that reason, we made a special right that we can switch on or off for different people if they should be able to see the duration or not. So if this is a legal point, then obviously we can switch that off. So I can see a couple of different things here. Once I click on my test run, I see at the bottom that we have also test run steps. So I see, okay, Mike started with interest store. There was no answer because there was no question. Then Q1 was the next question, also no answer. So then they pressed next, and then Q1 again appeared on the screen, and then we had a question. Now, what that question means is something what I could want to see. Now, oh yeah, sorry, I was a little bit confused because there's so many information. Now, first of all, I see this one is the internal code for that answer. Now, or for the question itself. R5 is internal, the code for the answer, and 5 is the label. I think we might be able to make some change in the future to this because for many people who are not very technical, this is confusing. But actually, 5 is the answer here, and then 3 was the answer here, and this is a text answer, and that's the reason why it has apostrophes. But then we see other question answers like this. This is the random text answer, for example. Okay, so you see here basically really for all the individual test run steps in what order they were done. So you would also see if somebody is going forward and backward because then things are repeating. And you see also the answers they have given. Again, if this is a categorical questions, and I didn't have categorical questions here now in my survey. Well, I had, and this is basically the categorical questions 5 and 3. But this is not saying something like very good or very bad. But if you have something like very good, very bad, and this is in German, sehr gut or sehr schlecht, and you don't speak German, then you can switch here to your other context. And if SurveyTester has already enough test runs that were done in English and German and in Chinese and so on, it would show you then not sehr gut, but it would show you very good. And this helps you really to identify in your, well, language skills also to work with multinational projects. Okay, I can also show my screenshots again. Now this is something what we have here. I can again select my devices. Let's check how, for example, Firefox did that. Okay, I click here, and then yeah, Firefox looks a little bit different here. Okay, oh sorry, Firefox here, and Firefox did not yet create that screenshot as well. Possibly my test environment is not really set up properly, but this is also possible from here. So you see, while we were doing that screenshots, they were done once. We offer you to look at these bits and pieces from different angles. So here, while I look to my test run steps, this is really the screenshot that that person was seeing, while, for example, if you're going back to our patient routing, Q6, this is a screenshot that was the last one, for example, in that particular language, and not really the specific one of a person, because we don't know what person have used Q6 here. There were multiple persons. But here it's really Mike Smith and this individual page or test run step that was used. Okay, great. Now, this is, again, the view about our test runs. I can also see here very good how many people tested. So sometimes the team says, yes, we did the test, we did all the tests. And then you look here and then you have only 2 tests, and then you would want to say, hey guys, can you do some more tests, please? So you also see how the duration is. And if you know that, for example, there's a 20-minute study and you have a lot of tests with 1 minute, then they did very, very fast tests, and so probably not really the right thing. You see also what was the last page of that test. So end of interview was a complete one, but Q2_1, well, they did not really test until to the end. And then if you want to see what operation system or browser was used for the tests, you could also say, can you please do more tests with Chrome, for example. Okay. So this is a lot of information that you could use, and all this information can also be combined or compiled to a kind of a project documentation. This is not yet finished, the project documentation, but will be available soon. And once we have this, then you would get a report that's a PDF, for example, or could be also a PowerPoint, where you have all the information combined in one document. And the reason why this is important is the other day I received a phone call from a large electronic company that are making well, lightning or lights for the consumer and industry market. And they told me that they doing a lot of market research with some market research agencies, and they have a lot of quality problems there. But actually, what they're also doing is, or what they need at the end of the project, is screenshot of all the pages that were done with that project. So if you have, let's say, 50 screens or 50 questions, somebody sits there and does 50 screenshots in 25 languages. So this is a lot of screenshots, a lot of things you want to do. I think you can easily work 1 or 2 days on that just for the screenshots, and have a high cost factor just doing that project documentation. Now, using SurveyTester, all the information is already there. You just need to finish that, well, PDF report, which will be there soon. And then you have your perfect documentation. And in addition to that, we can also add information like, well, what was the testings? What were how are the screens together connected, or the pages together connected? What was the logic? We can show you a lot of more information as just screenshot. Great. Now, before I come to the test survey button here, I can also say I want to repeat a test run. Now, I can repeat the test run here from a test runs part, or I can go to my project issues and say, okay, Mike Smith well, reported on Q2.1 something. I have seen the screenshot. Yeah, for example, I could move here. I can look to that screenshot, yeah, and I say, wait a second, Mike Smith did not buy these shoes. I have no idea why this shoes are there at the moment on that screen. So I can go here and further up, and I can click on jump to page. Now, this is interesting because you see now we have in total we have two different test runs here. If I go back and say, okay, Mike Smith, I want to jump to that page. Now this will now start a new interview, a new test run, directly with the server, with your survey server that you're using. And here I can say, okay, I want to go to Q2.1, for example. Or I could say, well, I do not want to do this forward and backward stuff, because obviously somebody went from Q to 2 to 1 back, then to B, and a lot of different routings are used there. So what I want to do is I want to jump to Q2 2 from here. And now I'm repeating my test run, and this starts a new survey. As you can see, it knows all the answers from the database, and then it brings me straight away to that question. So this is, well, it's not the shoes because I jumped to a different page, but it's the Wonderland red dress. And if I'm moving back, for example, okay, I see, good, here are my shoes. So, and this is my rating. So these are the answers. And this really created a new test run, the same way like it would be manually. Now, I will go out again and go back to our project. But what you can see here is that in our test run list, we have now a third one. It's Bernard Witt, Chrome, also macOS, and this is a repeated test run. So this is not a native created test run where I clicked on my answers manually. This is a repeated test run, or at least a large portion of it was repeated. So this is great because if, for example, I had situations, just a short story. We made surveys for, or coded surveys for a market research company. And then they, this was a couple of years ago, and then they sent a screenshot with some Russian text and said, this Russian text is wrong, it should be this Russian text. Now, in the screenshot, I cannot select text, I cannot really see the difference. It took me 5 minutes to stare at the screen and see where's the difference, because this is so hard for you if you don't really can read the language. Now, Russian is easy. If you look to Thai, for example, or to Arabic, or to Chinese, or to Japanese, or to Indian. Indian is well, very, very difficult because there are 15 different Indian character sets. Now, there are 15 different ways how to write in India with, much more different languages, Indian languages. So this is really, really very critical and very, very complicated for people who really don't know these languages, but they need to work with that project. So in this case, I was also thinking about, okay, why did that person see that screen? So I could look to my survey's code or my survey script and try to find some problems. I could even rerun the interview and say, okay, I don't come to that screen. And in this situation, it's very important to be able to repeat a test run. And while a survey, author or a tester are testing their survey, and they are giving answers, we know exactly what the answers are. And then we store all the answers in the database. And if I'm repeating a test run, then I know exactly, okay, if I want to go to this page in this test run, interest store had no answer, Q1 had this answer, Q2 1B had that answer, and so on. So I know all the answers that were given in the individual pages that finally bring me with exact the same pattern to this one. Now imagine these are not 5 pages, but 50 pages or 100 pages. How long would it take for a coder to, first of all, find out what were the answers that the tester used? So he basically needs to download the data and open the data with SPSS or with Excel or whatever. And then they would need to look at the answers, and then they would need to repeat the test run. And question by question, they would need to enter the whole answer pattern. You easily can save 15 minutes of work just with that task. Okay, and then we can do that now, and then we see, okay, that's a problem. We know what the problem is. Then we fix the problem on the survey server, and after all, we need to test that if it's really fixed, and then I just repeat the same test run, because then on the survey server, the new fixed version is already there, and then I can repeat that, and then I see the difference. Okay, so this is really saving the time. Now the other thing what saves you time is if you go to test survey from here. Now, first of all, I can select what language I want to test, for example, English or French. Now, my demo was not really set up in a way that it supports languages, so I only have English available. But then from here, I also can say, I want to test now, but I know I want to go to Q4. Now, what do we see here? We see all the questions that anybody used in their tests. And again, if Q7, 8, 9, for example, should be there, but nobody used it, possibly because it was a logic error, a routing error, then I would not see Q7, 8, 9 here. But if somebody used like Q6, for example, then the system knows how to bring me to Q6, because there are some ways some people manage to get to Q6, and so the system knows how to bring me there. So from here I can start, and this is again what we have seen before. In the background, the interview is running now, and a new test run is started, but it was so fast that I even had not the chance to think about all the answers. And I could say, yes, all okay, now, ... And I go to next, and then I'm at the end of the interview. Now, what you see here is end of interview detected. And this is another great feature, because sometimes you need to test the whole thing now again, but you want to make something different at the last page or at the second last page. And then you would need to start again. And here I could just click on yes and say, yeah, run the whole thing again. And then I'm there again. Another test run was started, but it stops at that page that was before the end of the test run. So I could do something different here. So imagine you have a screener with 5 questions. You do the first test, you're screened out. Then you need to do the next test, and you would possibly want to start at that point before you were screened out. Now you cannot really do the back button usually, but here you can just repeat a new test run, and then if you are again at the end, and the system would say, yeah, you want to repeat, then you click again yes, and then you're there. Now the other great thing here inside that environment is you can see, let's say, no, let me start from over again. I want to start with the first question to make sure you know what that is. But you see there are a lot of new test runs now. So I want to start just from beginning on. I see this one. Now I can go to that symbol here at the bottom to my routing. And then I see, okay, this is the routing that is possible from now on. So while I'm running now my survey and I'm at IntraStore, that's the green one, okay, I can go to start and again go here, see my routing. I'm here now at the green one. Now this is my own workflow or survey flow, but I still can see, okay, what is, for example, in IntraStore there. I can jump back to that page if I want, okay? But I also can jump forward to that page. So again, I only did 2 pages here, and I want to go forward to Q2_3. I can jump that page, it's bring me there, and I'm here. And the reason why that works is because the system knows I'm here, and it knows people that also have been here in the test run and that went to Q2_3. If it wouldn't know this information about what are the needed answers, then this would be not possible. So obviously this is nothing what we would do in an early stage of the test, because at that stage testers need to test. They need to go page by page. But then at a later point where I want to be more specific, fixing things, checking details here and there, this is really, really valuable, and it can save you so much time. Okay, so this is what we have here. Now the other thing what we have here as well is the ruler. Now the ruler is something, I think I switched it off for that project, but basically it's something where I can, oh no, here it is. This is something where I can make sure that I see, for example, if this is in line, if all the individual elements are really in line, because sometimes people are really taking a piece of paper, putting it to their screen and say, this is not in line. This is not left aligned or top aligned or whatever. So the ruler is sometimes happening in this situation. I think the ruler in this demo that we have interferes a little bit with our demo, because you see there's a specific effect. The ruler should be in front. So I think we need to make some changes to the ruler to make that happen, or make that work in a little bit better way. But I think you get the idea. As every platform, every system, SurveyTester is really on continuous development, well, or on change. That means a cloud-based system changes are usually made very easy, very fast, and we make sure that the system is always up to date. So whenever a confirm it is changing something on their end, or IBM or Unicom these days is changing something on their end, obviously we need to check and we need to test what was changed, how does it interfere with SurveyTester, and what we can do with it. Great. So you've seen now basically the back end from setting up a project, like project details creation, project issues, handling issues, pages and routings, test runs, test survey. One thing is still missing, and this is related to our management of the whole system. So if I have the user rights to do so, I can go to that backend. And there are basically 4 different tabs here: system settings, manage backups, manage roles, and manage users. Now, system settings contains the classification field sets. You know or remember we used simple as a classification field set. So here at the top or bottom front here, I said for that project I want to use simple, not default, not status. I want to use simple. Coming back to the settings, in a classification field set, we are combining different fields together. So here we have 3 fields: issue types, priority, and status. For all of these fields, we have different types. These are all drop-down lists, for example, but it could also be just checkboxes or other types. And then for all of them, we have at the bottom specific values. So issue types are, for example, spelling error, routing errors, and so on. Priority is just, well, alto, medio, and bajo. And status is something like open, fixed, ready for retest, and so on. Now, every field value can be connected to a color. Now, these colors are good for the overview in a table, where you see in one view what's going on, and you can identify the ones that are really important and are red, and well, move the others that are fixed, for example, green, and ignore these. Now, for every well, field like status or priority, we have also information like, is it visible by external testers or not? So this is something where you can control if an external tester, and remember this can be also your client, the Coca-Colas in the world, if they should see that or not, that color. You can also define if it should be visible by internal testers in the testing period or phase. Then you can also define if it should be displayed in the grid, in the overview grid, and if you want to be able to edit it inside that grid. So for example, priority can be changed inside that grid, but issue types not. In this case, you need to double click on that issue first, and then you would see what's going on and be able to change it from there. Now, these colors, like the false color and the true color, are used for specific field types only, so we don't use them with the drop-down list, for example. But this is the way how you control it. And if you want to add a new field, for example, and if you want to call that something like billable, so some market researchers have that field where they just say, yeah, can we build a client for that change because it was not agreed initially, or can we not build a client for that change? Yeah. So this is also possible to collect information about these issues in that way. So I could say, yeah, billable is true, is green, for example, and this one is orange if we don't want to billable. Now, external testers should not see it, internal testers should see it. Oh, not, sorry, because this is not something what I can decide during my test. Displaying grid, yes. Editing grid, yes. And I'm adding this, and from now on, this can be used. Okay? Great. Now, but I don't want to just kill my demo, so I'll remove that field again, and we'll have it here. Now the next thing what we can do in system settings is I want to create or can change my mail templates. Now there are specific situations where the system is sending out emails to users. For example, if a test link is created, you're invited to test the SurveyTester survey. You remember this is basically this email. Dear Mike Smith, you're invited to test the SurveyTester project Winter Wonderland. So this is exactly the template, and you can change these templates to your needs. This is important because testers, for example, getting this link should be able to contact you possibly, or to see that it's coming from your company and not from some spammers and so on. Now, new user is another one. If a new user is generated or created, they would get that email, for example. If somebody's forgot his password, then at the login screen, there's a kind of a button that they can use. Then they will get this email. If a user is added to a company, then they will get this email. And this is for German and this is for English available. Other languages will follow on demand. So if we see, for example, that there's demand from French or Spanish customers or Chinese customers, then we would obviously add these in a very easy way. You see there are also placeholders available. So for example, test link has two placeholders like first name, last name. So they will be used for this one. Then we have the next part, manage backups, which is at the moment, well, there's no backup in production, but there are old backups available that were done. For example, Hotel Survey has 2 backups, B&B, Winter Wonderland. So I can say, okay, Hotel Survey, I download that backup, and then it will be downloaded to my computer. Or if I go back, okay, or I can delete the backup from there. So that's also possible. I can delete the backup, yeah, and then it's gone. So I don't need that anymore. Now, important part: manage roles and manage users. Now, roles we don't. Well, we give you some roles where we mean that makes sense. For example, project managers or external testers and so on. But then there might be other roles like your customers, like a Coca-Cola, like a Pepsi, and every role basically has specific user rights. So if I click on a role, I can scroll down and then I have fine granulated user rights. So you see there is edit project details. I can say, yes, these guys with that project manager role should be able to do this or this or this or this. So there are a couple of different roles available that are possible for these people. Obviously, I want to structure my team in a specific way. So, for example, I do not want that every tester can create projects. Only some specific people should be able to create projects. And that's the way how we can do that. And then finally, users are part of our role management. And in this case, I can say, yeah, Jay Smith, for example, is in the Coca-Cola group and is in the administrators group. Now, administrators give Jay Smith some specific user rights like create projects, create issues, create pages, delete backups, and stuff like that. And Coca-Cola gives that person the right to view specific projects. Now let's do this one. Larry Vincent is a better example because administrators always can see all projects. But this one is great because project managers can do specific things, but if they cannot really have access to a project, well, they don't see the Coca-Cola projects. But then if you assign the Coca-Cola role to a project, then Larry Vincent can also look to a couple of different projects as well. So this is something what we have here. We can also resend the invitation to these people. And it's more important is that it's really possible to add multiple rows to these people. So project managers and Coca-Cola is, for example, part of, well, Larry Vincent is part of these roles, but we can also add more rows to these people. So also to Pepsi if you want, for example. So if Larry should work for many other companies as well. Great. So this is what we have here. By the way, this is also it's also possible to manage really large groups of people. We have companies or customers who have 600 or 700 users at the moment, and this is really working fluently. In our old version of SurveyTester that possibly the one or the other of you know, it was very time consuming to deal with large lists of people, for example, or large lists of issues because it was very slow. But this version of SurveyTester is really redeveloped from ground up, and this was tuned for a great user experience. So there's no time-consuming post back to the server. When I click something, immediately there's a feedback from the survey, and if I change something at one point, then immediately other people can see the same. Great. So that's yeah, really most of it for now. Um, Possibly what you should know as well. Now, if I'm logging out, I'm coming back um, to our login page. But what I really want to show you is again our default page here, because first of all you can register here. If you register here, you can leave your email address. You can create a username. You can type in your company, your first name, last name, and what your survey provider is. Then we will contact you, and then you can well possibly soon work with SurveyTester. But most of all, the most important part is really that we offer you a very scalable well environment here. So you have seen you can work with different projects, with different users and testers and logins and so on. But the way how SurveyTester is basically using or from financial point of view is also scalable because we are only charging per project. So if you have one project where you think you want to test it or want to use it, now we always give you a free test for a project. But if you are convinced from SurveyTester, you don't need to add or buy a license. You can create as many users or your team can be as big as you want. The only environment or only factor that is really important is the number of projects. So if you have 10 projects, we will charge you for 10 projects. If you have 100 projects, then we will pay 100 projects. And if you have one project only, then you only pay for one project. And we have a kind of a scenario where we are differentiating between large projects and medium projects and small projects. They are different priced, but it's really a way that helps you a lot, and where you can save a lot of time and money, obviously. Okay, that's so far what I wanted to tell you today. Please come in and send any questions to us. We have here support at 2by4.de or support at surveytester.com is also possible. And please contact us at any time you wanna contact or get more information or want to test SurveyTester. And as said already, the system is under continuous development. We are adding more providers frequently, we are adding more functionality, and we always listen to our customers and users. So if you think there's a functionality missing, then yeah, tell us about it, and we will try to implement it pretty soon. Great, thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon.